Hey guys, and welcome to the second part of the modeling in Blender 2.8 video tutorial. I'm the creator of the game called Snappy Mouse Run, and in the last video we talked about the edit mode and we started modeling our teapot. One thing that's worth mentioning from the last video is that we added a mirror modifier to our mesh, so we need to edit only one side of the mesh and the changes will get reflected to the other side. And don't be disappointed with the low polygon mesh, it's far easier to create a high detail mesh from a low detail than the other way around. We can always add more detail to it without distorting the low poly model, that's no problem, but you cannot remove detail from a high poly mesh to get a low poly without distorting it. For now, the goal is to get a decent low polygon version of it. With that said, turn on the reference images and switch to wireframe. Go to the side view and let's start with the front part. The easiest thing to do here would be to select some faces and pull them out and maybe add some loops in order to get it into shape. Tap into the edit mode. First, to work with some more definition, let's add a loop here by pressing Ctrl R and one loop down there. Now let's see which faces we need. Select the faces. Go back to the side view, and to pull them out we will use the Extrude tool. Select it either in the toolbar or press E on your keyboard. As you can see, the faces get pulled out and also some additional faces are added in between. One thing to be conscious when extruding, the moment you press E it gets applied. If you try to cancel this by clicking the right mouse button, it looks like nothing has been applied and you might think that you have cancelled the whole process, but actually if you move the selected faces we see it was applied and only the moving was cancelled. Be careful when doing this because you can easily end up with hidden faces and detail in the mesh without even noticing it. You cannot tell by looking at the mesh that there is something wrong. The only way to notice this is to either move the faces, or if we select only the vertices and carefully look at them, they may seem disconnected from the rest of the mesh because the highlight trail is missing on this edge, and that's because it's not connected to this vertex but to the one that's underneath. We can see this if we move the vertex around. Keep this in mind when extruding. Of course, there is also a way to fix this. Select all the vertices we previously extruded, press Alt M and select Merge by Distance. This way all overlapping vertices get merged together. If we move them now, no hidden faces anymore. Go to the side view and extrude again. Now move it out about the same size as the front part. Press G and Z to move it up on the Z axis to get the bottom shape. Next, take the upper face and we will rotate it. Rotation and scale are affected by the pivot point and we want this point to be somewhere here. That means we want that it rotates around this point. In order to do this, let's place the 3D cursor here by holding Shift and right clicking. Let's check the pivot point setting. It's set to 3D cursor. If we rotate it by pressing R, we see indeed it rotates around it. Rotate it to the side and drag it down a bit. Now select the upper one and extrude again. Scale it on the Y-axis by pressing S and then Y. We will add one more loop here, Ctrl R, and one additional loop here. Press S and Y, and let's scale it on the Y-axis. Okay, let's make this top here flat on the Z-axis. Back to the vertex select all the vertices. There is a trick how you can make them flat, but for this to work we need to switch the pivot to median point. Press S to scale, Z to constrain it on the Z-axis, and press 0. That's it, it's flat. Let's take a final look to the side view, maybe adjust the button a bit. And that's it for the side view. Go to the front. We see it's not round as it should be, so let's round it up. Rotate the view a bit to the side. Go to edge select mode over here or press 2 on your keyboard. Now we hope that Blender knows that all the edges are somehow part of the same loop, so we can loop select them. Hold Alt, select one edge, and indeed Blender has selected all of them. When holding Alt while selecting, Blender tries to select all the faces, vertices or edges, in this case, that are part of the same loop. So remember the shortcut, we will use it a lot. Go to the front view, move all the edges in on the X-axis. Now select these two edges and again in the front view drag them out on the X-axis. And again, I'll select these two, drag them in again in the front view on the X-axis. Okay, rotate the camera a bit to see how it looks like and turn off all the gizmos and set the render to solid without wireframe. It looks blocky and it's very wide. Also, we need to get rid of this notch here. Turn the gizmos back on, switch to wireframe, and let's get rid of the notch. Select these two edges, move them on the Y-axis to about here. Now let's make this thing more narrow. First, I'll select this loop here and move it on the X-axis in a bit, so GX. Now let's take another look without the gizmos and in solid. a bit better, but still blocky. So let's try to fix this. Back again, front view, and let's see if we can round this part up a bit. Switch to vertex select, press 1. We will move the vertices manually and also activate the proportional editing by clicking this over here, or just press O on your keyboard, it will toggle it on and off. With the proportional editing enabled, select one vertex here, and if you try to move it by pressing G, this circle appears. This is the circle of influence. If we move the vertex around, all the vertices inside the circle are affected and are moving with it. You can adjust the size of the circle with your mouse wheel and also change the influence shape over here. Proportional editing will help us bring this into shape. Let's look at the side view and clean it up here as well. Although it feels kind of satisfying to manually edit the mesh and moving the vertices one by one, don't spend too much time on this. You can easily lose track of time and spend hours cleaning something up, but at a certain point the result will not look any better no matter how much time you put in. So don't overdo it and set yourself a time limit. Again, turn off the gizmos and switch to solid. I would say it looks okay for the most part. Now let's do the top. Go to the side view. For the cover we need to unloop here, Ctrl R, then we need to scale it, go to the top view, S to scale, and it's not scaling as we want, because the median point of the selected vertices is not in the middle of the circle, but somewhere here. And since we cannot select the mirrored part of the circle, we will need to set the pivot point ourselves to the center in order to scale it properly. Deselect all vertices except the opposite two, press P to box select and hold the middle mouse button, Shift S, cursor to selected, 3D cursor now jumps to the median point of the selected, and set pivot to 3D cursor. Now Alt select the loop and we can scale properly. Go to the side view and S to scale it. Alt select the top loop, E to extrude it, constraint on the Z axis to about here. We want to scale this loop as well, so let's set the pivot to right, top, P, middle mouse button, Shift S, cursor to selected, back to the side view, Alt to select the loop again, and S to scale it. Maybe this loop a bit down, this one up, and we will add another one here. Repeat the scaling procedure, top, B, middle mouse button, Shift S, cursor to selected, back to side, Alt, select the loop again, S to scale. Do the same for this one as well. Now we want to separate the cover from the body. Select the whole cover, go to Mesh submenu and select Split or press Y on your keyboard. Press O to disable proportional editing. Move the cover up a bit on the Z axis and we see the cover is separated. Alt select the top loop of the body and move it down a bit. Now let's bring the whole cover except the bottom loop down on the Z axis. Alt select the bottom loop, E to extrude, constraint on the Z axis and move it down. Okay, that would be it for this video. In the next video I will show you how to create curves to create the back handle, and you will also learn how to melt or merge two objects together, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and make sure to give a like and subscribe if you want to see more tutorials like this. Thanks and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.